Do 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 do. Okay, this is strange. Usually my compadre, Mr. Ricky Pope, is on the right side of me. Apparently he is busy doing something, and I don't know what that is, so I don't even want to know. As you can tell, that usually his beautiful face is on the other side of that microphone, which right now it's not. So while he's doing that, I'm going to read some comments and some reviews that we received until my good friend Mr. Ricky Pope gets back, Ricky Pope. So anyway, he'll be here in a few minutes, but let me read some comments. Interesting, some reviews. The Amish Times said 4 out of 5 Amish. Well, I don't think the Amish actually, I'm going to read it anyhow. 4 out of 5 Amish agrees that the Speaking Nerdy podcast is the worst podcast that they've never heard. Well, I think that's just ridiculous. I think that's fake news. That's fake news. They're in the White House. They're passing a law with a unanimous. Anyway, we don't talk about politics on here. Let's see here. Now tonight, folks, we are going to talk about the final wrap up of the season of Moon Knight. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it yet, but Oscar Isaac's done a wonderful job, and so we're going to talk about that tonight. Plus, we're going to have some stupid and nerdy news and some other stuff coming up. So as soon as Ricky gets back, we're going to start the show. Hey, there he is right there, Mr. Ricky Pope, the man and only right there. Hey, Ricky, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Oh, well, that's awesome. We were just talking. I was just reading some reviews that we received from different from different commenters and different reviews that we've received from other publications. I mentioned one that 4 out of 5 Amish do agree that the Speaking Nerdy podcast is the worst podcast they ever heard or never heard of. So that's nice. I'm not for sure how they do that, but also too, I was reading a little bit of politics. Both the House of Representatives and the Senate have all come to an agreement that they should rethink freedom of speech after listening to our show. So I think that's good enough. We need to get going. Let's go. Hey, let's go. Bye. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Let's go. Let's do this thing.
It's the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Shilley.
And my good friend and compadre, finally back in the bathroom, Mr. Ricky Pope. I don't know if you were in the bathroom or not, but that's where that's what I'm telling people.
Did you show this comment?
Oh no, I need to go check on my neighbor. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So
I'm good, Joey. Thank you very much.
So guys, if you're watching us right now, whether from the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Twitch, whatever you kids love nowadays to watch videos like these hip guys like us, shout out on the comments. Let us know who you are, where you're at, and if you've seen if you've watched Moon Knight yet.
Yes,
this has been a ride.
Absolutely.
And I think the final episode, so much to unpack. And there's some things that happen that I think me and you both agree that we were kind of thinking of the last show that,
yes,
there's some apparent things that happen. So, I'm kind of looking forward to see some of that. But we have a ton. We have a ton of news that's out there right now.
Lots of nerdy news.
One, I want to say happy May the 4th be with you week for all us Jedi's nerds. Just want to do a shout out to that. And also on the news, have you seen the trailer to, yes, Daniel Radcliffe takes the stage as Weird Al in the Weird teaser. What do you think about that?
I have seen it. I think it's going to be good. Daniel Radcliffe does a good job. Is going to pull it off.
I think so too. Yeah, it looks really good. It's going to be on Roku channel.
Yes, it's going to be on the Roku
channel. What's that all about?
I have no idea.
I never heard of that. Is that like, hey, Dan, welcome to the show? Howdy, fellow travelers. That's right. Yeah. Do you have to have a subscription? A Roku is a paid subscription, or what's the deal?
I don't know if you have to have a Roku, or if you can watch it on a streaming device. If you don't, like a phone. If you don't have a Roku, I'm not sure the answer to that.
I think this is the first,
and I'm assuming it's going to be free.
Have you ever
that there's going to be a charge?
But is there such a? I understand what Roku is. It's a streaming box,
and I know there is a Roku channel, but I've never looked at it. I have I have Rokus. I run Rokus in my house.
Yeah,
that's how I do all my streaming TV. But I've never actually watched the Roku channels to see what's on there. So I don't know how that works.
Well, speaking of May the 4th be with you, dropped this last couple of days ago is the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. Man, it looks really good. We're going to be talking about it the week after it comes out. So you'll have a whole week to check it out before we talk about it.
It'll drop.
Yeah.
It'll drop, and then on the same day we have an episode, but we won't talk about it that day.
That's right.
Because we won't have time to have watched it.
That's right. Plus, we'll give you time to watch it, and then you can jump in on the comments. So, yeah, it looks really good. I was kind of looking over it, and it was about 90 seconds long, and it just had a little bit more information. There's a moment. There's a little bit more of Owen's Lars in it, which I was,
more than I was expecting.
Yeah. Apparently, there's in the trailer. We're not giving anything away, but in the trailer, you can kind of see from New Hope, the older Owens, how he wanted nothing to do with Luke's father. He understood the background. He didn't want him to go to the academy. And you can see this actually in New Hope. I mean, in the Obi-Wan series. So there's some continuity there, and it seems to me that he's going to be involved as an actor. And this is the same actor from the prequels, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I hope they do him some justice. I wonder if he's more on the trailer than he really is going to be in the show.
Yeah.
Is this more of he's going to show up in the first episode, or do you think he'll be a long-time character? I'm not sure.
I don't see how he can be a long-time character. I don't know. He may be in a couple episodes, the beginning, maybe in the, at the end, but there's only 6 episodes. So
true.
Who knows? Who knows on that? Also, we've heard, Batman, Patterson, they're going to be a sequel. I did watch it, and I don't know. We probably should maybe do a show down the road on it. To give my opinion.
We could do that next week.
We can do that.
Because we don't have anything, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. And everybody's watched it by now. They can give your comments. I think it's going to be a hot topic for some people. People who are going to either really like it or really not like it.
Yes, it is definitely leaning that way. It's a love-hate kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I know.
Week,
Maybe
next week we can give our review.
So we don't turn the show into the Batman show. Yes. And then also, let's see what else we have on the, this is hilarious. Paul Bettany says his kids dubbed him as the worst Avenger.
Yes, I read.
Did you hear?
This is hysterical.
Yeah, apparently they've been trolling their dad, calling him the worst Avenger, and I guess he was talking about it on the. I think it was Seth. I don't know the guy, Seth Meyers on one of the late night shows, but I thought that was pretty funny that he would do that. And also in the news, Kevin Feige, basically they on, I believe it was San Diego Comic-Con, that they announced that they are planning for the next 10 years of the MCU movies. So
that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that it hasn't already been done.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating that they're going to plan out the next 10 years, but Kevin Feige says they're not going to do long-term contracts.
Yeah, exactly.
And exactly are you going to
Well, we did a whole show on that, talking about that, and but you know that's Marvel, right? I mean, I mean, there's always, you know, the same people, the Marvel and the Disney folks, especially with Star Wars as well. So, I mean, and I don't know. It'd be interesting what the next 10 years will hold for MCU. Also, too, we're going to talk about Moon Knight, but on Moon Knight, I'm kind of wondering whether or not they're going to do a second season. It sure seems like they set him up for a second season. The director, Mohabed Dab, said that it would be a waste. It would be a waste not to continue the story with Mark and Steven. He said, but he has no clue if the follow-up would make another season of the show, a film, or an appearance in another Marvel studio project. He says it mirrors this mirrors previous statements made by Ethan Hawke, who told IGN that the show functions as a limited series, but could be the origin story of a larger thing. Of course, we know how that goes in Marvel. Anything
once
can
you
happen.
exist in the MCU, you could always show up in something.
Exactly. It's like a soap opera.
Yeah, and we'll get. I think we can get into that a little bit near the end tonight. We can talk about whether we think there'll be a season 2 ever.
Yeah, we can do that. I tell you what, maybe we can do some stupid news, and we'll get right into all the MCU universe goodness. What do you think about that?
Great. It's the Weird and Stupid News with your host, Mr. Mike Schillen.
Man, I tell you, it's a lot of weird and stupid news out there.
Before you do Weird and Stupid News, Dan says, I haven't been watching Moon Knight, so I'll be leaving when you start discussing it.
To avoid spoilers.
I understand, Dan. It's really good.
It's really good. I was telling a guy at work, I was saying, even if you're not an MCU person, you think about the fans who really love Spider-Man and, the entire catalog, and you're really in the comics and stuff. This really stands alone. And it could be categorized in a whole different category by itself. So
absolutely.
So anyway, so enjoy it,
right,
Dan. So on the stupid news, I don't know. I grew up watching Scooby-Doo, but in this situation, it's a little bit different. A drunken Maine man arrested after trying to hide from police under a blanket.
I saw this. I saw the video. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Oh no, wait. This is a different guy. This is a different guy. The guy I saw was in a little, like a shed.
Yeah.
Right out in the open.
Right in the open like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the folks listening, basically it looks like a chair with a blanket over it, and the guy's just sitting in it. Yeah, he would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for the Maine's Belfast Police Department. Intoxicated Maine man was arrested for trespassing earlier Monday after trying to hide from the police underneath a blanket, authorities said. Of course, he was sitting in a chair. Yes. Officers responded around 9:30 p.m. Sunday for a report of a disturbance caused by a drunken man identified as Philip Doolid. Police removed Doolid from the property and told him not to return or else he'll be arrested. When police performed a sweep of the parking lot around 12:40 a.m., the police said they found someone hiding in a chair with a blanket draped over themselves. Police pulled the blanket off and revealed that Doolid was hiding underneath it while sitting in the chair. Here at the Belfast Police Department on the Facebook page, they said, "We have seen some crafty ways of hiding from the police department," wrote in Facebook, but this, unfortunately, is not one of them. Yeah. So anyway, it was kind of a little Scooby-Doo there, right there. But and apparently Canada is getting ahead of themselves when it comes to the space age. New Canadian law. There's a new Canadian law to prosecute crimes on the moon.
Wait, We're not on the moon.
Exactly. Not now.
So we're prosecuting future crimes, or we're just passing laws to make sure they're covered later.
Hey, if you're an astronaut committing a crime while traveling on the space shuttle, which country would hold you accountable?
So I'm thinking this is like international waters thing.
You're kind of touching on something there. Yeah. Did they even commit a crime since no country can claim the space or jurisdiction, just like you said? Well, the Canadian government had decided to be ahead of the curve in the space crime. The country's House of Commons just passed a law that will allow Canada's law enforcement agency to prosecute crimes committed in space, even on the moon. Of course, the law doesn't apply to every astronaut, cosmonaut, taikonaut, or space traveler out there. But Canadian citizens, though, you Canadians, when you try to run for the border of the moon, at least can no longer escape the long arm of the law by leaving Earth. That's right. Its enforcement would require the criminal.
I have this vision
Mounties.
Of Mounties with like bubble helmets.
It reminds me of the Muppets, Pig in Space, but the pig with the Mountie hat on. Remember that one? Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you remember that.
Yes.
The Canadian Mountie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
That's funny.
So its enforcement would require criminal astronauts to return to the terra firma before prosecution, though, unless Canadian cops have their own space shuttle that we don't know about yet. Based on the new law, any crime a Canadian astronaut might commit will be regarded as if it was committed in Canada. Canada is the first country to make sure that even the moon isn't safe to harbor criminals. And that is goodness. Stupid news.
Oh my goodness. That's great. This has been the Weird and Stupid News with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
Yeah.
So Dan has a question here that maybe we could take a little time to answer. How do you guys manage to keep up with news?
We try to scramble at the last minute, and we do this. No, I have different resources I go to, and the
There's
rules
specific websites.
Yeah, and we have rules. Okay, we do not get into politics.
No,
we don't. No politics whatsoever, which is hard because going through all the stupid news, there's a ton of politics involved, and we don't talk about. We don't talk about epidemic stuff. If you want, you can watch it on another news network. So we try to find things that doesn't harm somebody, or I say harm somebody, doesn't kill somebody or maim somebody. And after that, the gloves are off. So, and we try to, we teeter the line a little bit on some stuff, but
and then for nerdy news,
I'm
not sure about you, but for me, nerdy news is always Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Variety. Those three are kind of my big three. If I see something now, IGN I trust. But almost all of IGN stuff is just
it's
reiterating what Deadline and Hollywood Reporter already said.
Kind of what we do, but
exactly. Exactly. But those are kind of my three. If I find a story on a weird website or a weird post, I go to those and see if I can find it and then double check.
There's one that sometimes, and I'll have to fact check. There's one called CB Comic Book. Sometimes they, have you know what I'm talking about?
Comic Book or Cosmic? Cosmic
I don't know. It's called CB, news. But anyway.
There's a couple.
There's a couple that I think you have to be careful of, and we usually. I
try to avoid Mike Zero, and I try to avoid what's the
We
other
Got You
one?
Covered.
We Got You Covered.
Yeah. So anyway,
those two are. So Dan also says, "Laws on the Moon. It's about time."
I agree.
So this isn't stupid news, but I have to share this.
Yeah.
You and I live in Oklahoma.
Yes, we do, sir.
Oklahoma right now has two things.
Yes.
Tornadoes.
The T, yes.
And pot.
Yes. Yes, that's true. We have TP.
Yes, we have
yes,
TP.
we have TP.
We have a growing medical marijuana industry.
Yes, you can find
and
it.
In fact, not to get into too much politics here, but
no,
the state has even said they're going to stop offering licenses for medical marijuana shops because they realized they had issued too many. There are literally
too
many shops.
You have
for the amount of people that have the cards.
You'll see them you'll have a small strip mall and you'll have two in this just right next to each other basically.
Yes.
Every corner. It's kind of like a convenience store. Joey Ware says, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
And you might. So why are these two things important? So there is a small town in Oklahoma, and I'm praying for the people in that small town. They had some devastation there. No one was injured.
Did. Yes.
No one was injured. One of the interesting things that was blown away was a medical marijuana grow farm. So all I can think of is in the next 3 to 6 months, the entire town is just going to have random pot growing
everywhere
in people's yards.
And how you going to control that?
Because you have to have a license to grow it.
Yeah, you have to grow it. Yeah.
So I can't imagine how this little town is going to keep up with this issue. And like I said, this isn't really stupid news because it's not yet news.
Not yet news.
But it really sounds like it's going to be.
And hopefully this doesn't happen in a little town. But if the catches on fire, around the area,
goodness.
You're gonna have squirrels,
grass fires,
in the pot field. You have squirrels eating brownies. It's gonna be a really big deal going on. So, So
anyway, sorry, I had to share that.
No, that's okay. You had to.
Thought that was hysterical when we were literally watching the tornado footage on TV live.
Yeah.
And I saw all of these little tents, and it was obvious that a bunch of small greenhouses were getting blown away.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, I bet that's a grow farm.
Mm-hmm.
And then a day later, they said a grow farm was it. Joey said, I thought you were going to show the path the tornado took after it hit the pot farm. Never seen a tornado make a 360
and go back.
Oh, Joey, that just made that bit a whole lot better.
Yes, it did.
And that was definitely off the cuff. Mike did not know I was going to talk about that.
No, I had no idea.
Oh my
no,
goodness.
I did not.
Is it time that we? Is it time?
Yeah, we're done talking about pot. Let's get to it, I guess.
All right, let's do the spoiler alert right now.
Let's do.
This is your spoiler alert.
Yes, it is.
For all things Moon Knight.
Yes.
We are gonna do our wrap up. We were gone a couple of weeks because of extenuating circumstances.
Yes.
And so we're gonna kind of cover everything, but you might start with a little less spoilery and just say, what was your thoughts about the show overall? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Give it a rating. What was your take?
I really enjoyed it. Like I was talking about earlier, Moon Knight, which is a MCU property, it could stand on its own. Just something that was produced by somebody, it just could stand on its own without any type of association of a superhero. Oscar Isaac is incredible if he doesn't win an Emmy or something like that, then I think Will Smith.
I don't know what you win for streaming service. I bet it's an Emmy because it's an episodic show.
It would be an Emmy. Brilliant on his part. He made the show.
Absolutely.
And it was well crafted. I was in for the ride. It's like a Disney ride. I was in for the ride.
Yes.
The turns, the ups and downs, and what I loved about it was a lot of twists, and there's some stuff that you knew in the back of your head, but you weren't quite for sure. It just had all the ingredients to make a really good suspenseful series, and so I really enjoyed it. If I had to give it, I hate giving grades like 1 out of 5 or something like that. I give it 4.5. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I liked it.
I did definitely enjoy it. It is a weird combination of kind of suspense, with some light horror elements thrown in. There's a few jump scares, and there's one scene where somebody gets yanked into the darkness. Those kind of horror tropes. Then we have superheroes.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have gods, and it's such a weird combination.
It is really weird,
but it worked really well. It wasn't Indiana Jones with superheroes.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't really The Mummy with superheroes, but maybe closer to that. Maybe. But it did kind of, like you said, it kind of stands on its own. It's kind of its own little thing. It because a lot of the MCU stuff is, it's this, like what was it, the Ant-Man's like Endgame is like a heist
Endgame
movie.
Is like exactly.
It's a heist movie with
superheroes.
With superheroes. You know, a lot of the MCU stuff is that. This one's a little more hard to peg down. But if I was gonna peg down one, it would be this is a monster of the week monster movie.
Yeah.
With superheroes.
Yeah, and it's more.
And I think it was really good.
I do
but
too.
Then it had some extra suspense, like you were saying.
Exactly.
It has extra suspense, more suspense than I would expect in that monster of the week kind of show.
Yeah, it was really good, and the continuity, and I mean the continuity of not being consistent, which being consistent, whatever that means. It was just really good, and everything was crafted for a reason. So it's not like it's we talked about. I said 4.5 by 5 stars. When I say that, I'm really looking at, again, I guess I have a man crush of Oscar Isaac because the guy can just act, and he
did a fantastic job.
If it was anybody else, I don't know, we'd be having this kind of conversation.
I agree. I agree. He definitely made the show. If you didn't like the story, you can appreciate his acting.
Exactly.
The moment you saw his face, you knew which person who he was.
Yeah.
Every time. And he wouldn't we've said that before.
And he didn't have to say anything. You just saw it in his face.
You could see it in his face.
Yes.
He was acting with his whole body. It wasn't just putting on a different voice.
Yeah.
It was a whole persona that he absorbed for a few seconds. And now this is getting into spoiler territory. Final episode where he's sitting there, and I'm not sure there were even cuts. There might have been cuts.
Yeah.
But he's sitting there flipping back and forth.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. Brilliant. Simultaneously. Yes.
So seamless.
Oh, it was seamless.
He did it so well. So well.
It was so believable. I mean, it was.
It was definitely close to Split level acting. If you remember the movie Split.
Split, yeah. Which was brilliant, by the way. I mean, he was I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, it's the same.
But anyway.
It's the same mental disorder. Dissociative identity disorder. And that same kind of thing. and
but he was able
really
to
did a
do
great
it. I
job.
mean, a snap of the finger. I mean, it was almost he was having conversations with himself, but you didn't believe it. Wasn't as if he was talking to himself. You were brought into it. You were like, okay, it's Mark and that's Steve. They're talking, but it's one freaking man. Okay, so it's one man. So incredible.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. So I really liked him. So I don't know where to begin in the whole thing because it's been a long ride. I kind of go back to, we've been away for like 2 weeks now. I think we've covered 1 through 3, right? No,
yeah,
or
we covered 1 through 3. So 4, 5, and 6 is what we haven't talked about.
So we're just going to kind of throw everything together, put in a big pot and stir, and there you go. But the things that come back to me is we think about, we all know that Mark was shot. He was laying there in the puddle, right? And so
Marcus died,
and he finds himself in the manifestation, the I guess you would call it the underworld, the Egyptian afterlife,
underworld, whatever it is.
And apparently,
I used to follow some of the. I used to read up on some Egyptian mythology, but I haven't read any of that stuff since I was in high school.
No,
I couldn't tell you any of it anymore.
Is it Duat? I think it's Duat.
Yes.
So apparently, Duat, he's he's that guardian. He's I guess the main character within the underworld, not the underworld, but I forget what they call it. But anyway, kind of the Hades, I guess, if you want to take a look like that way. But but they kind of he's having to. He's in this Hades kind of point where Harrow is the psychiatrist in this, and does a really good job. It's almost convincing when he's having these conversations with Mark, and then sometimes trying to bring out Steven and have these conversations. Yes. It's almost convincing. You kind of wonder, if you haven't read the comics, you kind of wonder, okay, is this really, this whole thing is another Saint Elsewhere? Are
we going to come out at the end with
yes.
We're going to find out it was all really in his mind.
In a snow globe,
he was dead all
along, yes. So,
except we knew this was Marvel.
Yes.
And then we knew there was some backstory. So we knew that wasn't going to be a thing.
Of course it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it was brilliant. Mark is, again, he's treated as this if he's in some type of an asylum or some type of psychiatric ward. And of course, Harrow plays, which is played by
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke. He does a brilliant job playing this character. And so, but as it goes, it really becomes the whole series to me more than about the battle, about Khonshu, more about the whole bit is, I think it's about Mark Spector and Stephen Grant in going through their past and uncovering things.
Yes,
I think that I think that within itself is really, for me, is the story. Mark coming to terms what happened in his life, why Stephen exists in the first place.
Yeah,
and it was very thought provoking to me. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in here that kind of pricked at me, going, "Ooh, there was some stuff in here."
There's some fascinating things going on. The abuse he suffered, and that causing this break.
Yeah.
That Stephen is. I mean, there was always at some point, because this is who it is, you have to say who was the original, and we finally. And in the comics, we know it's Mark Spector.
Yeah, we know it's Mark, yeah.
And we assumed in the MCU it was going to be Mark Spector. But the MCU has been known to flip the script. Yeah. So I wasn't exactly sure. that's where that Mark Spector was gonna be the original, but we do find out eventually Mark Spector is the original.
Is the original.
Steven was a coping device,
basically. Yeah.
And then we know also there's a Jake Lockley.
Well, that's where I was going to kind of go. We have permission here to go all over the place because the show went all over the place. Yeah. There was a time you and me were talking about a couple of episodes ago, and we were talking about the possibility of a third person.
Right.
And we were kind of going, I think there was a third person because, we were kind of both going, okay, I think in the comics there was a third person. And
in the comics,
there's a driver, it was the cabbie.
Right.
And they actually drove around Khonshu, which in the comics, actually, he's driving around Mr. Moon Knight, which I'm not for sure how that happens where he's driving himself. There's in the comics that is.
Yeah. There's some weird things going on there for sure. But I always assumed we were going to see the Jake Lockley character at some point. And it was always my assumption that when they blacked out and people died, that was Jake Lockley. Was the third. It was my assumption. It's my expectation, and we do basically get confirmation of that at the end. Now, there's some other things that I hadn't thought through until later. So, if you roll back all the way to the first episode, I think Jake Lockley has been here a lot longer than we like to admit.
I agree.
Because in the first episode, he has this mysterious date that he didn't make.
Yeah.
Okay? Steven didn't make the date. Mark's a married man.
He wouldn't,
He probably wouldn't. And he's a married man and deeply in love with this woman.
Yes.
Even though he's kind of trying to get a divorce to protect her.
Yeah.
I don't see him making a date with a woman. I think that was Jake.
Yeah.
And there are just a couple of other times, like in the, there's a couple of times in the psychiatric ward scenes where his voice gets slightly rougher than what Mark's is, but it's only for just a few seconds.
Yeah.
For one line. And I would think now looking back, I go, I wonder if that was supposed to be Jake.
No, exactly.
I wish I could read the scripts to say which one is Jake, which one is Steven, and which one is Mark. But it would only, I think it would only be a line or two of Jake popping out. But then we've got the scene where, we have the scene where they wake up in the, in this place. And they all basically climb out of sarcophagi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But there's one sarcophagus that they don't get out of.
Yeah.
And that was instantly my assumption was that's Jake Lockley. That's the Jake Lockley character that neither one of them want to admit exists.
I think my favorite thing about this whole thing is about Mark and Steven dealing with their past and I think, everything that goes back to Mark's childhood when his brother Randall drowned in the cave, dealing with his mother who over it, suffered from alcoholism and to the point of even to the scene we talk about where she's banging on the door and Mark's in the corner of the room and he's probably about 8 years old,
8 or 9, maybe
8 or 9, and all suddenly Mark, something flips in him and he's starting to talk like Steven and he's saying, "Oh, Mom," and cleaning up. "Mom wouldn't like this mess." And then from that point, the door opens up, and throughout this whole time, Mark he knows what's going on, and he grabs
Yeah.
Steven. He doesn't want to see Steven to see any of this because he's wanting to protect Steven from all of this.
Yeah.
And there was this line that I love, and Steven's asking, why are you trying to keep me from this? You know, what is this? And, you know, and finally he just comes to the point. He said, you're the reason, you're the point. You're the person. You're not supposed to see this. You know, you got to live a happy life. You got to enjoy life. A mom that loved you. And you know, we went back earlier and we remember we had a conversation about Steven, where he would just lay the gator, talk to his mom on the phone.
Yes.
And I said, I wonder if that seems odd to me. I wonder if his mom doesn't really exist. And sure enough, that was what he wanted to believe, that his mom was on the phone. He talks to her every day. And even when Steven finds out that his mom is dead, he just freaks out.
Yeah.
And very powerful moments. And you get sucked in with both of these characters being played by the same person.
It is definitely drama filled.
Yeah.
It is not which honestly, a lot of these Marvel shows have not been your standard superhero fare where you expect, you know, we all knew there was going to be a big, you know, CGI battle at the end. We all knew that was coming. But the amount of depth that we get, the amount of emotion that we get in with the characters, I have really, really enjoyed. And I know, I honestly think a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of hate poured on, you know, some of these smaller MCU products, you know, properties like Moon Knight. You know, a lot of people on some of the Facebook groups I help run, you know, they're like, Moon Knight stinks. This isn't good. It doesn't fit with everything else. And I'm like, but so I have been having this thought. So track with me for a minute.
Yeah.
You go to the comic book shop.
Yeah.
You know, we're old enough. You go to the comic book shop in the 80s or 90s. You got your pull list.
Yeah.
Behind the desk.
Behind the
know,
desk. Yeah.
You give the proprietor your pull list. He pulls your comics every week. You don't get one of everything.
No.
You get what you want to read.
Yeah.
You get the Avengers, or you get Moon Knight, or you get Iron Man, or you get X-Men, or you get some combination.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't get everything. You know, like I knew who the Hulk was, but I didn't read the Hulk. I read the Avengers and I read the X-Men.
Yeah, same here.
Those were my two staples. You know, I didn't read Spider-Man when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I knew who Spider-Man was. He was great. I just didn't read the comics.
Yeah.
I think we're getting to a point. There's two things I'm going to talk about here. I think we're getting to a point in the MCU where we're almost to the point that we have enough Marvel properties that you're just going to have to be okay with not liking all of them.
Yeah, of course.
You're going to have to pick and choose the ones that fit your personality and what you enjoy watching. And the second part of that is much like comic books.
Yeah.
And the second half of that is, I think if Marvel continues down this road of everything must connect in deep and meaningful ways, we're going to get to a point where it's going to be really difficult for new audience members to get into the MCU. That's always been that was always a concern with like Doctor Who. But when you had a new Doctor, it was a new on-ramp.
Well, a perfect example, I was talking with somebody at work, and they actually went to go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse, which is out.
Yes.
And I hadn't seen it yet, and she was saying, you know, she had mixed emotions about it But anyway, there was another colleague that said, I hadn't seen it yet. I really want to see it. And she says, well, have you seen WandaVision? And he said, no. I said, well, you really need to see WandaVision to fully appreciate this. And this goes back to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And comic books have gotten that way too, especially in the DC universe, because I started reading Batman 52. And so you're reading Batman 52. Well, if you want the whole story, then you better get, Wing Knight 52 in this hierarchy, and you need to get this over here, and then Batgirl, and because all of these fall under. And I was reading what it was the Court of Owls. Well, it involved all these different superheroes, which ching ching, that's a smart idea, but I can't. It
is an interest. It is an idea which will allow you to extract more money from a certain group. A certain
group is what you're saying, yes.
But what you're not going to do is you're not going to get new blood.
No, you're
not going to get fresh blood unless you start new things.
Yeah.
Which, like Moon Knight, that's kind of a fresh start. I was discussing this with some friends earlier today. Moon Knight is kind of the first Disney Plus origin story for a main character.
Yeah.
Hawkeye comes a close second.
Yeah.
Because it is Kate Bishop's origin story, but it's debatable as to whether, was Barton the main character or was Kate the main character?
Yeah, exactly.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
But in Moon Knight, you don't have anybody to bring you into this story.
No.
You are dropped into a new world that Marvel hasn't looked at.
Yeah, exactly.
Period.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good way to on-ramp new people.
I agree, and I think Disney Plus for Marvel is a great vehicle to bring lesser-known superheroes to the forefront. And I think it's great. And I think people that are complaining, they're still holding on to the whole Avenger MCU universe, and it's like, be open and enjoy some new stories. And Moon Knight is definitely one of them. I read a little bit of Moon Knight comic. I'm not, it's like it was fascinating to me about the split personality. I started reading it because I knew Moon Knight was coming up eventually. So I thought I'm going to read a couple of the comic books and get a kind of feel for the character. And I'm glad I did, but you didn't need to enjoy the show.
Yes.
And I enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it whether I read the comics or not. Yeah. It was something different. It's not Steve Rogers. We're not talking about Steve Rogers. We're not talking about, Tony Stark. We're talking about, Mark Spector, who is a flawed man, more than most. And you're dealing with a serious illness, an issue.
Yes.
And which they dealt with. I thought they did really well.
Yes. I think they were very even-handed.
Yes.
They dealt with it very very judiciously. It was, he never, it was never a, you are, well, okay. Haro always said, you're deeply troubled.
Yes.
And Khonshu, even at the end, said he's more messed up than, basically says, he's more messed up than he even realizes. But it's not treated really harshly.
Yeah.
I think it was dealt with very, very well.
I think really my favorite characters is Mark and Steven, which is the same actor.
Absolutely.
And I love the journey where they don't trust each other. Imagine the same man, okay? They even get to the point where, Steven, falls for Layla, which is Mark's wife. A scene where I loved where, Steven actually kisses Layla, and then when Layla turns around, Mark hits himself, which actually he hits Steven, and he falls down the hole. And so, but you see this where finally, getting close to the end, Mark, he leaves the fields of, what's the name of that? The
Field of Reeds.
The Fields of Reeds to go back and save Mark, where, and Mark can spend his entire, afterlife in this beautiful field, and the scale is balanced, but, he goes back for, Mark goes back for Stephen. And
so I have a whole big problem with the whole balanced scale thing.
Yeah.
And the hearts. The math does not add up in
any
way, shape, or form.
Yes.
But I'm not gonna fight with it too much, just because I've already suspended belief that Egyptian gods exist.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, and there was some, and to me, the scales was kind of an odd deal to me, because there's one heart that basically what they put two hearts. It's one. It's on the scale. It's doing this, which we all know that
when they didn't balance, I thought we were gonna see Jake Lockley.
Yeah, something like that.
I thought we needed a third heart to balance this out.
Yes.
But that's not where they went.
No, it's not where they went. I mean, they went to the hippo, which is...
oh, my gosh. This is so MCU right here.
Exactly.
This moment is the MCU moment. It's the epitome of every MCU show. We're going to get deeply, deeply serious, and then we're going to do something ridiculous in the middle, and as a joke, but it's going to be a plot point. It's actually going to be important, but it's going to feel ridiculous.
And at the same time, it's okay. It's almost like, okay, it fits, even though it doesn't, but it does.
This is typical MCU. We take ourselves really seriously, but not that seriously.
Exactly.
Which I honestly, I think that is a perfect balance for the MCU.
I totally agree with that.
Not to get into the DCU too much, but I think sometimes DCU takes itself too seriously.
It does.
Or it doesn't take itself seriously enough. One or the two. There's not a balance.
I really liked, I really liked the character Layla. Now, of course, let's go back to our hippo friend. She is now, I'm not. This is Tariq. Is that correct?
Tawet. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but it's something like that. Yes,
because there's a scene,
and she drives the boat.
Yes, she drives the sand boat. It was interesting. I guess Layla was gonna go. There was a scene, and I don't have a picture of it, where they're at a border crossing, and Layla is following them, and of course there's a big gunfight with the border police and Haro's men, and of course Layla is wanting to, she's wanting to go kill Haro, and there is a border crossing person on the ground that's been shot, and she's speaking to him as this particular god.
Yes.
And basically wants her to be her avatar, and because it's the only way to defeat Crocodile Woman, Amet. Amet. Yeah, so
I'll Amet. I can't pronounce most of
these names. I can't either. But she kind of has this whole Wonder Woman look to her, okay? This
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I actually really love this suit.
Yes.
And until just now, I did not connect all this. Okay, put that back up. Now, you see the wings.
Oh, yeah.
You see the shape.
Yes.
Okay. Now, go back to Hippo Lady. Look at what's on her chest.
Oh, yeah.
It's a scarab with the wings.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense, yeah.
That is a great little Easter egg, and I never noticed it till just now.
And MCU is really good about dropping those in there.
So once again, we have a superhero that doesn't get a name. The assumption is that we're going to call her the Scarlet Scarab. Or just the Scarab. Or
it could be.
Probably just call her Layla, because MCU has been notorious for not always using everybody's code names.
Yeah, and she knocks me off my feet.
Nice.
Okay. Anyway,
But I'm excited about this new superhero.
Yeah. Well, it was a scene where she's fighting Emmett and the Haro, the Avatar, and there was this young girl that she saved, and she looked. Are you an Egyptian superhero?
Yes.
Like she's never heard of anything like that before, and I thought that was kind of cool. One of my favorite scenes, and I was reading that it shadows the actual comic book, but I love the scene where, because I'm a softie, where Steven and Mark, they realize they're both okay, and they're like hugging each other, really glad to see each other, and it's like they're like brothers. And which is totally different from the very beginning, where now they would give their lives for one another, where before, and I have to go back while they're on the ship and they're trying to, and Mark is being forced to face his past.
Yeah.
There's a scene where, and I love this, where Mark is, he's all these memories, and and you can just tell that he's beating down. And what I loved about this, he tells, because he faults himself for his brother. And I think that's where it all begins, is where Mark's brother Randall drowned in the cave, and he blames him, and all of this is created from that. And finally, Stevens looks at him and tells Mark, it wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. It was almost like, if you think of one person, the hardest thing is forgiving yourself. And there is so much there with that.
Absolutely.
And so I thought that was a real touching and poignant to the story. Also, I saw a lot of this where, the difference between Amat and Khonshu, which almost like I'll get into. It's almost like free will and predestination. This whole thing was going on.
There's
so much of that religious overtones in it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's even so to get hyper spiritual here.
Yeah.
I'm not so much into this idea, but there is this shot that certain people might say they have this vision of what they call spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
There is this shot in the final scene, and it's an up shot. It's a worm shot of Haro and Moon Knight going at it. And then in the background, you see the gods battling basically in the same positions.
Yeah, it's not this one, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's a fantastic shot, and it is an interesting idea that the gods are fighting around us while we're fighting our own battles.
Yeah. It's interesting. During that battle, I knew this was going to happen. We talked about this. Remember, we were talking about earlier because you talked about, you were thinking maybe Steven might kind of disappear. Remember in the very beginning.
That was a question I had all along, is when he comes to terms, is it just going to be Mark?
Yeah.
Or are we going to come up with something different?
Which we find up at the end, they're in the apartment, and, Mark finds out that Steven ties himself to the bed where he falls down. And Mark is saying, you live in this crappy apartment?
I can't believe you live in this crappy apartment. So two things there on that.
Yeah.
One is, I love the fact that there's been a progression. There's definitely been character growth with the character.
Yeah, exactly.
The characters. Because initially, it was two people who took control but didn't really understand it. Then it was two people fighting for control.
Yeah.
Then it was two people learning to cooperate one at a time.
Because they have to.
They have to. And then it's two people that have accepted this is how things work. Yeah. And I need you and you need me, and we're going to go through this life together. Now, the other thing, so I like that progression that they've built. The other thing is they keep tying themselves down because they know there's a third one out there doing crazy stuff. And he's the only one that's killed anybody.
He's a loose cannon. Well, and what's funny about it is,
it's just funny they keep forgetting they did it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, they made a deal with Khonshu that they would no longer be his avatar. And Khonshu says, I will release both of you, which he technically did, the personalities. And he didn't want Layla at all. He never wanted Layla. Layla was the stick for Mark to continue to do his bidding.
Yes.
And so and that was the scene where, I wasn't, Layla was not the one I was wanting. And of course we all know that was, the
Jake Lockley.
Jake Lockley, which that, and of course right here is a perfect example of, in the comic book, and of course the car and two things in this show is that it comes all the way back around again where Steven is in his bed getting up in the morning and tripping because he's tied and
we're playing the same song.
And then of course this is the mid credit scenes where a turn on play where now Harrow is in the psychiatric ward.
Yes.
And you hear this almost sounds like Mark, but it's not, wheeling him out.
Speaking French,
yes. Which I didn't realize he spoke French, but
apparently Jake Lockley does.
So
similar to how Steven can read ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, but Mark can't.
We're going back. We'll go back and we'll talk about how you were talking about how they had to learn to work with each other. What I loved about it, and I had this feeling, and I think we talked about it, and then maybe I brought it up. I don't know. Maybe I had it in my head, but I really loved it because how they were able to, even Moon Knight and Mr. Knight were able to work together.
Yes.
I mean, from, here you go from Moon Knight and then, Mr. Knight, and they work together.
Mr. Knight knows how to fight now.
And the thing, they weren't begrudging, who was going to do what. Steven says, okay, Mark, I think you need to take care of this.
I think you should take care of it now.
Exactly. So I thought it was brilliant.
I
think what's interesting, it'd be kind of, how do you continue to have a relationship with Layla?
That is a question mark.
How do you continue to have a relationship with Layla? Am I with Mark or am I with Steven? Surprise, yes, there could be an awkward honeymoon there.
Yes.
But
I'm not sure how that relationship survives all of this, but and this is where I wonder, how far can we go with Moon Knight? Can he come back? Like, they are not under Khonshu's control anymore.
No.
So if they want the suit, if they need the suit, Jake has to take over now?
That's interesting. I mean, anything can happen where they have to, they may have to come back to the devil,
Yeah, do they have to come back to Khonshu and make a new
and say,
deal?
hey, listen. And it may.
Okay, we all three are willing, but
yeah,
we're willing, but you have to turn off Jake.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you're telling maybe they still have the power and they don't have it because Jake is. I mean, let's think about this. Jake is still in there. Technically, Jake is still there.
Yes, Jake is still inside.
Which technically,
but they don't know Jake. They know he exists, but they don't know him.
So that means somehow if Jake's an avatar of Khonshu, then they still have the power. They just don't know it.
Maybe.
I'm just throwing that in there. I don't know. I know.
So many questions. I have.
That's what I mean.
Questions. I'm right there with you. it ended, and I was happy and satisfied.
I was satisfied with it.
And then I went, wait,
what? I need more answers. Wait a minute. I need more. I felt the same way. I need more.
So here's the question. Is there a possibility for a second season? Is it more likely he'll just show up in somebody else's show from time to time? What do you think?
I think it depends on how well this season went. That's really what it comes down to.
It'll be numbers. I know.
It'll be numbers. I know. But
I hate to think about things like that. But
I know
with Marvel, it's all about the money. If having Moon Knight, if lots and lots of people watched it, then it will, it's likely to get a second season.
Now, if it was me, and after watching it, I do think they're primed for a second season because of the third person.
I think so too. I think Jake Lockley deserves to have a little more screen time. I think they need to deal with that third personality.
I agree.
And come to a final agreement with Khonshu. Now, unfortunately, the agreement that I want them to come to with the Khonshu is that we're going to pick and choose our own battles.
Yes, exactly.
And we get to keep the suit.
Exactly.
I'm not just gonna fight your battles the way you want them fought. Because in the end, that's kind of how they ended it. He wanted them to kill Harrow.
Exactly.
But they were satisfied that he was taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was kind of part of Mark's redemption too, being a mercenary. He said, "I'm not going to take another life for you. This is, Yeah.
Well, and I had thrown out way early the idea that what if the third personality is the one that went nuts and killed Layla's father?
Yeah, exactly.
But that doesn't appear. It doesn't appear that that's what happened.
Yeah, that was.
We do get the Bushman story that Bushman turned on everybody and killed everybody.
Exactly.
Which I'm fine with if that's They really didn't lie too much in this.
No.
Because, one of the other conversations we had was, is Harrow lying when he says all these things like, I used to be Khonshu's avatar. I'm basically saying he used to be the Moon Knight.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we get, no, he wasn't actually lying. That was actually a true thing that happened in the fictional past. But the thing that I thought was kind of the most interesting, and the thing that made me go, and this is what I thought was, where you have the, who's the real bad guy kind of thing.
No.
We've got Harrow and we've got Amet. And you quickly find out Amet definitely is the big bad.
Yeah.
And Harrow is kind of a tool.
Which by the way, before I forget, and then Harrow was judged.
Yes.
And
he was judged not worthy.
Not worthy. But
and he was ready to die and allow someone else to take his place.
But she wanted him because Alexander the Great, I guess, was her previous avatar, and his scales were balanced, but she ended up being trapped for 2,000 years. So she kind of played by a different rule, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
So then we come to the end, basically the last scene.
Yeah.
Where Amet is inside of Harrow.
Yes.
And we have this moment where they could kill him. And basically they call out Khonshu, saying, well, if you order her death for what she hasn't yet done, then you are just as bad as she was.
Yeah.
because she was judging people for what they hadn't yet done.
Exactly.
And Khonshu said, I only judge people for what they have done.
Yes.
But in this one instance, he wanted to judge Emmet for what she hadn't yet done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that was kind of a twist.
Yeah.
Interesting philosophical idea there that, hey, look, the good guys aren't necessarily as good as you thought. Khonshu isn't as good as you thought he was.
Yeah, Khonshu's a douche. I mean, come on. I mean, really, he really was. I mean.
Yes, I agree. Khonshu was a jerk.
Yeah.
And Mark and Layla call him on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think of the kaiju fight at the end? The giant gods fighting.
Yeah, I thought it was like I was watching a Japanese Godzilla movie in the background. Yeah, it was interesting.
It was so fun.
And it was almost like, depends if the avatar. It was almost like if the avatar was winning, then the monster was winning. If the monster, it was almost like the symbiote. It, like a projection.
Yep.
Basically. So I thought it was interesting. So. Yeah. But, out of the whole thing, that probably was, we all know the battle's coming up. But to me, throughout the whole movie, that's probably was the most, I don't know, just, I want to say blah moment, but just wasn't, it didn't hold up to everything else.
It was just a big superhero CGI battle.
CGI battle, and
we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, it had to happen. Yeah,
exactly.
It had to happen. So
this is the moment that everybody expected to happen.
Okay, there's the hat on the head. Okay, we knew that was going to happen.
Exactly.
There we go.
And I will say though, I complained about early episodes CGI being a little weak.
Yeah.
In a few spots, especially when cars ran off of the cliffs.
Yes, yeah,
it was pretty sad looking. But the CGI in the last episode was seriously spot on.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. It was kind of one of those. Yeah. Okay. Let's get through the big CGI battle.
Let's get through the battle and to the.
But I'm more interested in the whole cerebral idea that we've been dealing with this whole.
Yeah,
season.
Me too. The same way. Which is brilliant. I mean, that's brilliant if you think about it, because most of these series are about the battles and the action. It's the whole thing.
I think most people that don't like, something like Moon Knight, they just want to see superheroes beat each other up.
Yeah,
they want to see superheroes beat up bad guys. They want to see big CGI battles. That's what they wanted. They got it in the last, 10 minutes of the episode of the 6 hours they had to watch.
There's your 60 seconds right there. Yeah.
Because honestly, you don't see a whole lot of Moon Knight throughout the whole show.
No, you don't.
There was more of Moon Knight in the last episode than in all the other episodes put together.
Which is,
But I'm okay with that.
I was okay with that too.
It goes back to certain comic books.
Yeah, this wasn't Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. This was not.
No, it wasn't. It goes back to certain comic books for me in the 80s and 90s. There were certain issues where they dealt with personal struggles, which this has been a Marvel thing for a long time.
Yeah.
This is the idea that, these are real people with real problems that have the power of gods and don't quite know how to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But so like, you go into an issue of like Iron Man, the demon in a bottle, where Tony Stark is dealing with his alcoholism.
Yeah.
That's a super deep story.
Yeah.
And you don't get a whole lot of Iron Man beating up, whoever the latest villain is.
Yeah, exactly.
You have him struggling with this, huge issue. Or the 90s in the X-Men series, where it's a lot of political drama around whether mutants can legally exist.
Yeah.
Those are the things that Marvel has traditionally handled well.
Yeah.
And I think they have moved some of that into the MCU pretty well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they get a little ham-fisted, and they just kind of, it's like they just write a line in and throw it in and say, "Well, there we talked about something important." And I think, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You threw in a line about something important. You didn't really deal with it. But I thought Moon Knight dealt with mental illness in a very gracious way.
Yeah.
And specifically this particular kind of mental condition.
And it wasn't, and for me, it's I have a problem, and I have a problem with agendas being pushed heavily in comic books, and I don't care whatever agenda it might be. Yeah. But in this situation for me, if I didn't read about it and they were talking about it, I wouldn't really, it wasn't in my face. I'll put it that way. It was very organic. It was done tastefully. It wasn't the theme per se.
Yes. It wasn't thrown in. It made sense as part of the story.
Yes.
Everything they did made sense as part of the story.
And as long as you do that, the premise is that it's part of the story, it makes sense, it's organic, then I'm on board.
Yes, I'm right there. I'm with you on that.
That's fine.
Yeah. When you just put in a throwaway line,
exactly,
to say, "Oh, we dealt with this in our show."
Yeah, it's like
no, you didn't.
No, you didn't. You just forced something in
that made half of your viewers mad for no reason.
Yes.
If you're going to deal with it, take an episode and deal with it.
Yes. Thank you. So
so get off our high horse now.
But I was really surprised how much I enjoyed this.
Yes.
I was really surprised how much, and I thought this is really good. And I would watch and I would vote for a second season. I would watch a second season. I would review the second season. It's really good.
I think Oscar Isaac deserves a second season.
He does. And whether the viewership or not, you got the viewers anyhow. It's Joey Ware says, "I so agree with you both." Yes, thank you, Joey. Everyone should agree with us. Sorry,
most people don't agree with us,
but I do love the 360. I want to keep that. We need to cut and paste that caption of his, and I want to keep it because that
was funny.
That was good. But yeah.
So any last thoughts about Moon Knight before we wrap up?
It was just a really well told story, and it was suspenseful. It took you for a ride, and it was. I think it hit everything on my checklist. I think it was done with this. It was emotional, and then it was funny, and then it was serious, and then he left you wanting more and wanting more answers. And I think that's a good series.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I really enjoyed it. I'm probably a little more nitpicky than you are when I score things. It takes a lot to get a 9 out of me. So I'm probably going to give this like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. But
at least an 8.5. Come on, let's take it up a little bit. Give it a 4 out of 5 at least.
I don't know that I've ever seen a movie that was a 10, so that's where I'm coming from.
You haven't seen. I won't say. You haven't seen the guy with 0. No, anyway, go ahead. You haven't seen.
I watched one episode of Peacemaker. I'm not even sure that's on the scale for me, but
everything's a 10 compared to that. But go ahead.
It doesn't take much to get higher than that.
No.
But I did really enjoy it. It definitely deserves a second season.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac deserves a second season, if nothing else. He would be a great character to throw in with some other people. He could be the super powered character that shows up to help somebody like Daredevil when Daredevil doesn't have superpowers.
Yeah.
Or doesn't have, super strength anyway.
Yeah.
I think this is a character who could show up in random things.
You think so?
And could do well, but I would rather see another series.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of that. I don't know. I think because it's almost like I'm selfish. I love the acting so much. I would rather just watch him act with this character. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm not for sure how much he would blend well with other superheroes. So I'd be interested to see if they stirred up a version of a Dark Avengers. Yeah.
Then he could be a good fit.
Okay.
So I don't know if they'll go that way. With a rougher, the Defenders kind of idea.
Yeah.
But Defenders was kind of street level.
Yeah.
Level justice.
Yeah, exactly.
But, he might fit into something like that if they wanted to go back there. But I did really, really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, apparently you did because we spent a lot of time talking about it, and I think it's great. Joey, where will you be seeing new Doctor Strange? Saw it last night. Can't wait for your thoughts. I have not seen it yet. I'm hoping to see it pretty soon.
And I have not seen it yet, and I probably will have to wait until it's streaming, unfortunately.
Or we figure out something here. We need to figure out something.
We might figure out something, but as of right now, we'll. It's up in the air for me. Mike will probably see it before I do, but
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I want. Well, you'll have enough time. You'll have enough time seeing it before we see it, so there's no spoiler alert. So let's put it that way. But
absolutely.
No, I look forward to seeing that. So I'll also look forward to seeing Thor: Love and Thunder, God and Thunder, Love and Thunder, all that good stuff. And
I'm interested to see that one. I want to see how that one plays out.
I do too. Even though I'm very apprehensive about, I
am hopeful. I am hopeful that the trailers have only a moment of Natalie Portman.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, I know.
My hope is that that Natalie Portman's Mighty Thor is only a small part of this movie, and that we really focus on Thor. I know they have built it up a different way, in the past, but watching that teaser, it's all about Thor.
I hope so.
I don't know.
It's a trap.
Yes, I believe it is. Anyway, on that thought, that's all I've got to say.
How can they find us, Mike?
They can find us. They can go to speakingnerding.com. There you can either listen or you can watch. On there we have our YouTube channel. We also have our audio podcast that comes out every Tuesday on any podcast streaming device that you like listening to. On there we also have our shop that's open for all our mercs out there, merchandise. I mean, that was a bad spin on words. And I don't know. Yeah, just speaking.nerdy.com. Go to it, check it out, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have our Facebook, all that, and a bag of chips. Let's say goodbye to these folks.
All right, let's do it. This has been the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
And my good friend, Mr. Ricky Pope. My compadre, by the way. Oh, man.
You changed it.
I did. Yeah. It was more like I was getting tired and I forgot to say the last